Welcome back, guys, to yet another Brave Exvius video. Today we're going over the first two of the 4 Esper units that we will be getting in Brave Exvius. This is going to be Mystical Ice Lasswell and Hallowed Aegis Charlotte, aka Shiva Lasswell, as well as Alexander Charlotte. A lot of cool stuff in here, some buffs as well to go over. So thank you guys so much for coming in, spending some of your time and your day here today. Thank you so much for the support that you continue to give the channel, especially those of you out there on Patreon as well as YouTube channel members. If you want to see more stuff, social media links are down below as always. So let's get into it here for you guys with Mystical Ice Lasswell. He's going to be a damage dealer with the main chaining frame family of Absolute Mirror of Equity. He does have a little bit of a roll array in here as well. He did get some pretty nice buffs coming over here to the global version. And let's start in with this TMR here, which is the Ice Demon's Crown. It's going to be a hat with 48 attack, 40 magic, 22 defense, and it has the effect of imbued with the Ice Demon's Might, which is going to give you 30% attack when equipped with a katana, as well as 30% ice resistance. So it's a very nice TMR actually if you're using a katana, whether you're a true double-hander or a true dual wielder, if you're trying to get some extra percentage attack there. And the raw attack on a 48 is actually really high. For TMRs, this might have some of the highest raw attack in the game. That's, you know, a normal TMR, not a super TMR. So very nice pickup here if you get access to Mystical Ice Lasswell. His super TMR is the Glacial Battle Garb. This is going to give you 56 attack, 32 defense, 50% ice resistance, and gives you imbued with the Ice Demon's Power, which is going to give you 50% physical killer against dragons. So it has a lot of raw attack on it, right? One higher than Madame Adele's super TMR, so very useful for getting the most out of your true double hand attack from your gear, your true dual wield attack from your gear. That's going to give you, you know, a little bit of demon killer, or not demon killer, but the demon ice power is going to give you dragon killer, as well as some ice resistance there. So pretty nice clothing. If you get your hands on that, it's pretty awesome. So his TMR and super TMR are both very, very good. Let's get into his equipment selection. We have access to swords, great swords, and katanas. Armor selection, we have hats, helms, clothing, light armor, and heavy armor. And let's move into his kit here, starting with Absolute Mirror of Resolution. I almost said Equity. Resolution, and you're going to notice a lot of these skills here have SH on them, which is like the Shivas help him out basically with these skills. So the first one here is Resolution, a low mod, a one-hit skill, has a 60% defense break, 80% ice resistance down. Not that great of a skill. He does have that roll array skill, which is 30 slashes of fury, which we've seen on a lot of Axstar type characters. He was trained by Axstar, so we have this like 30 slashes thing with a roll array here, 70% ice imperil for 4 turns, or ice resistance buff, excuse me, for 4 turns to all allies there. We have Moonlight Fall, which is going to be a little bit of MP restoration for him there with a 60% spirit break. Not all that great. And then we get into some of the main skills, right? Keeping true with the first 3 skills being kind of whatever in some of these units. We're getting into Diamond Blade and Storm Blade. Now we're going to have an Ice Imbue. That's an AT skill here, Chaining Frame Family, Absolute Mirror of Equity, in Diamond Blade. And then we're going to have a Wind one with Storm Blade, and these are both going to imbue the respective elements for 5 turns. So he's got Wind as well as Ice. Now he also has Mirror of Haze, which is a little bit of a very small utility here. He's got the ability to put Poison, Blind, Silence, Confusion, Petrification, Resistance on your whole team. For 1 turn only though, so he can't really maintain that roll upkeep for you there. And we have Fatal Bloom, Shiva, 7 times mod, Absolute Mirror of Equity here, 100% imperil, so this is going to be a pretty decent imperil here. And it's going to give you a 2 times mod increase to a lot of his different Shiva skills like Absolute Mirror of Equity, Shiva, Diamond Blade, Fatal Bloom, pretty much all of the mainstay skills that he has here. If it's got SH in the name, this is going to give a 2 times mod buff to it. Speaking of Absolute Mirror of Equity Shiva, we have this as one of his mainstay skills here, and it's going to get a lot of bonus from these multipliers from all of his various different multiplier increasers, like we just talked about with Fatal Bloom. This is because it is one of those skills where it's got a front part that hits 7 times and a final hit, and each of those parts is going to ignore 50% defense. So 1.0 mod, ignore 50% defense, followed by a 4.5 mod, ignore 50% defense. So any sort of multiplier increase is going to go into this skill 4 times. So that 2 times mod we just talked about from Fatal Bloom is actually an 8 times mod increase here on this skill. And this skill has a base 11 times mod, all said and done there. So after that, we have Ice Age Slash here for a 75% killer increase to the caster for 4 turns on a Absolute Mirror of Equity skill there. We have base dual cast with double katana art, And then we have 5-turn cooldown, Complete Awakening Mystical Ice here, which is a 5-turn cooldown, 250% attack buff, 150% ice resist buff, stop and charm immunity for 5 turns, and then a 3 times mod increase to a lot of his big damage dealing skills there, and it's going to unlock triple cast for 5 turns as well. So pretty strong buff. It's going to unlock your triple cast, give you that nice attack buff, and then give you those mod increases 3 times. But like we talked about with Mirror of Equity, it's actually going to be a 12 times multiplier increase there to that skill. So very strong, very powerful. Now we have Winter's Oblivion, which is a cooldown skill. This was buffed up quite considerably from his JP counterpart. It is a 4-turn cooldown available on 4. It's going to be a 120% Ice and Wind Imperil and a 60 times multiplier there. Also Absolute Mirror of Equity Chaining Frame family. We have Icicle Defense that you can use. Costs 34 Limit Burst crystals, so pretty considerable in that cost. But it gives you Fire, Ice, Wind, and Earth resist of 100% for a single turn to all allies, and then gives you a 25% HP auto revive for 1 turn to all allies as well. So I don't see you guys using this a lot, right? If you're in a fight where you need certain resistances, he's not really going to be your go-to guy because it's 1 turn and it eats up his whole limit burst. So not really that great of a skill. Ice Demon Mirror of Equity here, the final cooldown skill. Oh man, this is going to be a big one. So 3-turn cooldown available on turn 3. It is a 3-part skill. It does 4 hits, 3 hits, and then a final hit. So 2.0 mod ignore 50% defense, followed by a 5.0 mod ignore 50% defense, followed by a 12.0 mod ignore 50% defense. And this is going to give a 4 times mod increase for 3 turns to the caster to Absolute Mirror of Equity Shiva, and also going to give him 100% Dragon Killer for 3 turns to the caster. And it's going to give you, obviously it's part of the Absolute Mirror of Equity Chaining Frame family, like all of his other damage dealing skills. Now for passives, you're going to find out that he is going to be a true double hand character, 150% TDH baseline, and he's got a considerable amount of attack here in his passives, up to 170% attack here with some Spirit MP, a little bit of defense and HP as well. So a little bit tanky, but not super tanky here as a character goes. And then he's going to have 75% Dragon Killer and a base passive 2.0 mod to those skills we like to talk about before, including Absolute Mirror of Equity Shiva. He also has Shiva Evoke damage in case you want to use him as a summoner. Don't do that. A lot of the Esper units have this, and he's no different, but he's not a summoner, guys. Just don't do it. But he's got some ice resist, some wind resist. He does have 100% LB damage, 150% high tide, and he does start with his limit burst because he is actually a CG character, and we get that right there, 100 LB. And his LB is 120% Ice Imperil for 5 turns to all enemies, but it's only a 27 times mod, ignore 50% defense, so it's 52 times mod. Pretty good, but nothing like super insane, right? We just saw someone like LB AC Damage Cloud, or AC Damage, or AC Cloud, who does a bunch of LB damage, excuse me. He's not like that. You can do some LB damage with him, but that's not really what he's about, right? You just kind of want to go in there, use Complete Awakening Mystical Ice, and start triple casting all of your big skills. Use your cooldowns when they come up. He's pretty easy to use, right? You want to use Fatal Bloom, and you're going to cast Absolute Mirror of Equity a bunch. You want to use your cooldowns when they come up, especially Mirror of Equity Ice Demon. That's pretty much what you do. You just want to use Ice Demon when it comes up. Make sure you have your triple cast unlocked with the Complete Awakening Mystical Ice, and go in there. If you're a Lasswell fan, you're going to have fun with him. He's going to do a lot of good damage for you. If you already have a top tier damage dealer, like I say, for all the damage dealers in the game, just use who you like. You don't really need to upgrade, honestly, for damage. Just use whoever you like now. So that's going to be Mystical Ice Lasswell. Very strong character, but he's not like out there breaking the game or anything. And even if he did, it wouldn't. It's just the meta, man. The meta, guys, the meta is just kind of use whoever you want for damage. Now, as far as tanks go, I've been waiting for Hallowed Aegis Charlotte, aka Alexander Charlotte, for a long time. This could probably be the last character that I really pull for as a character. The only other one I could think of would be maybe if like Stern and Katone come out from War of the Visions. If it's got a good banner, has to have a really good banner on it. Maybe we'll give that a go a little bit, as long as it doesn't come out right after this. But Hallowed Aegis Charlotte is very, very cool. She's a very flexible tank, can take both physical damage as well as magical damage, has some nice utility. She has access to multicast, she has Entrust. That's part of that multicast. Allows you to do some really cool stuff with her as a character, and this is why I've skipped Cecil and I've skipped Warrior of Light. So we are definitely pulling for Hallowed Aegis Charlotte. We're doing it tonight, Thursday, 8-ish p.m. So if you want to come and hang out the stream, watching the video right now, links down there in the description for you guys, so you guys have access to that. It's always a good time, and hopefully we get a little bit lucky out there so we can save some of our lapis in case we need to. Now TMR here, Alexander Synergy, defense and spirit 30%, HP increased by 20% when wearing a heavy shield, as well as 40% light resistance. This is a very fine TMR here. You get 30% defense and spirit, you get 20% HP as well. So it couples with her ability to tank either or magic or physical damage, gives her that heft and the HP as well. You just need to have a heavy shield on for her, and then obviously it gives you that light resistance as an extra bonus. The STMR here is the Saintly Castle. Heavy armor, 106 defense, 106 spirit. Gives you a special ability that gives you a skill that is auto cast at you at the start of battle or after being revived, which gives you 30% general damage mitigation. This STMR, I'm not really the biggest fan of. Don't go out there and Moogle it with your STMR tickets or anything of that nature. If you get access to it, great. It's going to have that nice, big, bulky, flat stats for the 106 defense and spirit. But the auto mitigation, the only time this is going to be kind of unique is if like your tank like dies in battle and it gets revived, and then you don't have the ability to put mitigation back up on the tank for you. You're gonna get that 30% mitigation, but if you're out there, you have 50% mitigators, your tanks aren't dying, then this actually doesn't do anything for you with the ability because you have higher than 30% general mit. So not that great of a super TMR in my opinion. Equipment selection though, we have access to daggers, staves, rods, swords, and maces. So this is actually a great equipment selection for a tank, right? You can give her different weapons, right? You can give her high spirit with staves. You can give her high spirit if you have a high spirit sword. If you have the little TMR, she can wear that, which is pretty unique. Little TMR is insane. If you have some of those elemental resist daggers from events, or maybe even Nyx's super TMR, you can use that as well. So very, very cool there. Armor selection, the only thing she cannot wear is robes. So she can wear heavy armor, light armor, clothing, all that good stuff, hats, helms, light shields, heavy shields, whatever it is you need to do with her. So let's get into her kit here. Let's talk about her cool little utilities she can do. And she has first skill here, probably a skill that you won't use that much, especially since you can kind of build her draw attacky to draw those attacks. Can we coin the phrase draw attacky, by the way? Attract shield here, 100% provoke for 4 turns with 40% general damage mitigation for 4 turns. Ice Slash Alexander and Holy Slash Alexander are absolute mirror of equity chaining frame skills, 6 times mod each, and the holy version does a 80% holy imperil, and the ice version does an 80% ice imperil for 3 turns. But they also do 6 times mod that scales off your defense. She's not going to be doing a bunch of damage with these skills. She does have some skills that scale off defense, but it's more of like a nicety than anything else. So very low mods, right? We're in a meta where we have like 30, 40, 45, 50 times multipliers on skills. 6, guys, is not that big of a deal, all right? Now, she also has Sacred Knight's Defense Physical and Sacred Knight's Defense Magical, which can put up 130% defense or spirit buff for 4 turns, and they also give you 25% physical or 25% magical damage, depending on which one you're using, the physical defense form or the magical defense form. She also has Knight Captain's Dignity, which is an Entrust. So she uses her own LB gauge to fill an ally's gauge, works the same way as Entrust. And then it gives 1 LB gauge crystal on top of that to all allies. So you can use her to fill up, AC Cloud's Limit Burst or someone else, because she does have an extremely cheap LB. She's very similar to Sacred Shield Charlotte in that way. So she's going to be able to fill up her LB and just entrust it to whoever it is that you want to have that powerful LB. And that's one of the most powerful things about her. She's kind of like Galoof, right? Where Galoof, whatever you want to call him, can entrust his LB to someone else, but she's even better at it because not only does she have access to an entrust, her LB's extremely cheap, and then on top of that, she can use entrust with another skill. So you can entrust in cover, you can entrust it in peril, you can entrust in chain, you can do entrust in a lot of other different stuff, so she can maintain her role as a tank, never drop a beat, never skip a beat, and entrust over and over and over. It's very, very, very cool. Now we have a little bit of stuff here with Impending Edge, 60% attack and magic break on an AT skill. So that's a little bit of a utility there, but nothing super crazy. If you need some emergency breaks, she might have your back. Banishing Edge for a Dispel attached to Absolute Mirror of Equity chain. We have Glacial Light Veil, 70% ice and light resistance for 3 turns to all allies and gives a 2000 HP barrier. And then we get into the other cool thing that Alexander can do with Alexander Charlotte. She can tank and kind of off-heal at the same time as well. So we have Divine Fortress Chance to protect all allies from physical damage with damage mitigation to herself. Cover up damage mitigation. It's 50 to 75% mitigation for 4 turns to the caster. But when you cast the skill, you heal your entire party by 5,000 health. On top of that, she has Healing Glory, which old Sacred Shield Charlotte did, 3,000 HP, 30 MP, and 150% high tide. Then we have Knight of Knights Alexander, which is her magical cover, right? So you can put magical cover up. This one also heals 5,000 HP. So if she's got nothing else for you to do, and she's got her dual cast unlocked, which is not that hard to do, if you wanted to heal, you can just literally cast like physical cover, and heal everyone for 10,000 health. And she also has other ways to heal that are coupled with this and make it even better. She also has Machina Destroyer here, which can give your entire party Machine Killer, both physical and magical Machine Killer for 2 turns. Then we get into her 7-star cooldown skills, which is Hallowed Aegis' Vanquishment. What a name. 6-turn cooldown, available on 1. 70% attack break for 4 turns to all enemies. 200% defense buff for 4 turns to the caster. Puts up an 80% proc rate physical damage cover with 60 to 80% mitigation for 4 turns to herself. Gives your whole party 40% damage mitigation for 4 turns and unlocks Dual Judgment, which is her dual cast, for 5 turns to the caster. Hallowed Aegis' Banishment is her other cooldown skill, and it's the reverse of this one. So it's 70% magic break to all enemies, 200% spirit buff to herself, puts up magic cover, 40% general mitigation still, and also unlocks dual cast for 5 turns for her as well. So she can open up with this very, very strong. She can break, buff herself, put up the right mitigations, or put up the right cover, do the general mitigation, and unlock her dual cast all on 1 for you there. And her final skill is the Knight's Purging Blade, 3-turn cooldown, available on 3. Absolute Mirror of Equity skill, 100% ice and light and peril for 1 turn to all enemies, and it's a 30 times ice and light physical damage scaling skill off of your defense, and also unlocks Dual Judgment for 2 turns as well. So she's got 3 different ways to unlock her dual cast, 2 of them with her very strong covering cooldown skills, and the final one there with the Knight's Purging Blade. Now passives, she has access to a lot of cool passives here. Very tanky in a lot of different ways, right? 30% HP and defense, 40% defense and spirit, 50% defense and spirit, 40% HP, defense and spirit, 15% HP if you're equipped with a light or heavy shield, 20% HP, 15% HP and MP, 15% MP when equipped with a sword, which you don't have to give her a sword, and if you don't give her a sword, you're only missing on the MP. Nothing else is associated with whatever sort of weapon she's equipping there. A little bit more MP passives there. If you give her Alexander, she gets a little bit of extra tankiness, but you guys know this by now. Equip the Esper that's proper for the fight. If you need certain elemental resistances, equip that Esper over Alexander here. So if you need fire resist, you're putting on a Freak, right? Something of that nature. She also randomly has Demon, Machine, and Reaper Killer, and she also has the evoke damage of 150%. Now, she does have 50% draw attack, so you can make her draw attacks build, right? If you have Moogle Plushie and one of the other 20% draw attack items, you can use that. If you have Moogle Charm, which hopefully you've gotten, she can use that and cap right away with 1 item. She does have a chance to ignore fatal damage when her HP is above 5% to proc 1 time. She also has 2 counter attacks, Hallowed Aegis' Knight, off of physical or magical attacks. She has 60% ice and light resistance there. Then she also, on top of that, gets another 40% ice and light resistance. So she does have 100% ice, 100% light resist. She's immune to charm, confusion, and petrification. She has 50% high tide, autofills 2 LB gauge crystals per turn, gets MP recovered 7% per turn, and auto casts Alexander's Aide at the start of the battle or being revived. Alexander's Aide basically just means she's always going to have at least a 130% defense and spirit buff unless it gets dispelled or something, because it lasts for 99,999 turns. Now the counter here, Hallowed Aegis' Knight, heals your whole party for 4,000 HP and 80 MP. So you can couple this counter that's very likely to go off, right, with this character, because she's out there tanking all kinds of damage. It's going to proc at, you're going to get that proc minimum. You're going to get this 1 proc. She can heal 4,000 right there, and she can also heal 10,000 on your own turn. So she can heal a lot of damage there, especially if she's tanking up a lot of stuff. You can make her, if you've got some good gear, get in there, absorb all the single target damage that's flying out there, and then absorb an AoE damage of your choice, whether it's physical or magical. Get in there, absorb all that stuff, counter heal with her covers, keep going if that's what you want her to do. Very, very strong, very, very spicy. I can't wait to pair her with like Myra, which is definitely a very, very strong partner for her. So we'll talk about that at the end, but let's get in here. Magic, she has full life too, so if you want that as some support, she has access to it. Now her limit verse is very familiar. Sacred Shield Charlotte limit verse basically, but the physical version here. So it costs 22 LB gauge crystals, so extremely cheap. We talked about that. It puts up 50% general damage mitigation for 4 turns to your entire party. And then it has a chance to protect all allies from physical damage with cover mitigation for 4 turns to the caster. 2 caveats about this. Unlike Sacred Shield Charlotte, it's physical cover instead of magic cover, right? But if you are using this for physical cover, it always gives you 80% cover mitigation, which is absolutely astounding. It's crazy. Like if you're ever tanking physical damage with her, it's nutty. Because like most covers that we talk about, right, they're usually like 50 to 70% mitigation, which means on average you're going to be blocking 60% of the damage from that cover mitigation, whereas this LB is 80%. That's actually phenomenal. And this does stack with general mitigation, it stacks with physical mitigation, it stacks with magical mitigation, because cover mitigation is its own thing. This makes her very, 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 very bulky. So some caveats about Sacred Shield Charlotte. Very cool. The reason I like her so much is mainly that and the ability to entrust and dual cast different things at the same time. The things you cannot dual cast, though, you cannot dual cast her 2 big cooldown skills, all right? Those are the only 2 things you can't dual cast, which are the things that unlock your dual cast. You can dual cast, though, Knight's Purging Blade. So you can use this to keep your dual cast back up because it'll re-unlock it for you for 1 turn. Every once in a while, you're going to have to take a turn off to re-unlock your cooldowns with Hallowed, I knew I was going to mess this up, Hallowed Aegis' Vanquishment or Hallowed Aegis' Banishment, right? Once every couple of turns there, once every 6 turns, you'll be able to do that. So that's going to be pretty powerful there. But her ability to counter heal, her ability to heal your team while covering, the little certain healing properties of her, as well as the big entrusting capabilities are absolutely fantastic. Myra is going to be a phenomenal combo with this character, right? Picture this, you're using some LB damage dealing characters. You're going to have Myra who can entrust plus do something else, do her main healer role, right? Every single turn. You're going to have Hallowed Aegis Charlotte who for 5 turns is going to be able to entrust and do her tanking role, her off healing role every single turn as well. So you're going to be able to fill up 2 LB gauges if you wanted to with some LB, high tide, all this cool stuff, builds for your characters. Fill them up over and over and over and over and just pop LB after LB after LB after LB. Also, someone like Warrior of Light Lena has that interest, but not the dual cast. But Warrior of Light Lena and Myra both have those counter healing skills, which when coupled with Charlotte, allow your healer to just kind of probably do whatever you want, which is pretty insane, right? Myra counter heals for 5k, Charlotte counter heals for 4k, that's 9k. Charlotte can heal by herself for 10k. That's 19,000 healing to your whole party without you really casting any healing magic. It's absolutely absurd. It's super crazy. And if you have like a powerful regen instead to help Charlotte out, Charlotte can heal for 14k while your regen ticks, right? Maybe you're just having someone like a very powerful regen, like maybe even, I don't know, like Elephant, right? Elephant does have a very powerful regen. Someone like that who has a very strong regen in your team where you can just couple that with Charlotte's healing. You might not even need to bring a healer at all to certain trial fights out there. So now there's going to be one last caveat I want to talk about with Hallowed Aegis Charlotte. I'm just going to call her Alexander Charlotte because this name is a mouthful that I want to go over here. And this is going to be physical magical cover because a lot of people might not like the fact that her 50% mitigation is tied to her limit burst because her limit burst also puts up physical cover. And you want to use her as a magic tank, which she can do. She can tank both physical and magical damage, right? But what you can do here is if you're in a fight that does a bunch of magic damage, right? A huge bunch of magic damage. You're going up against, whoever, just a mage boss, right? You're going up against Emperor or something, or Golbez or whatever. It's something that's going to be casting heavy amounts of magic damage. We don't want to have physical cover up for that because it's not going to do anything for you. Now, a lot of bosses out there that are like this, they might throw in a physical AoE attack every once in a while, right? They'll throw it in like on their 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th AoE skill that they use to just make you have Mirage up or make sure that you have defense or anything of that nature. But what you can do, even though you guys know that you cannot cover both physical and magical damage at the same time, it doesn't prevent you from having both physical and magical cover buffs on your character. So what you do if you want to have access to this 50% general mitigation from her limit burst is against these bosses who use predominantly magical attacks, they're going to lead with those magical attacks. So as long as you have magical cover on, it's going to activate, right? Your Charlotte is going to see the magic attacks coming out, because what these bosses lead with is the magic damage, and that's going to proc her cover, and she's going to dash out in front of your enemies and in front of your party, in your enemy's face, and block that magic damage. And now once that magic cover has been activated, the physical cover no longer can be procced, even though she has the buff. That's why you can't tank both physical and magical damage. Whatever attack comes out first is the one that you start tanking. So what you can do is, as long as you have the magic cover on, you can feel free to use that LB in those scenarios to get that general mitigation of 50% up and activate, and she can be your 50% mitigator in these boss fights. These are very, very common, where the mage bosses lead with several magic attacks, and they throw in, those auto attacks at the very end to whittle you down. You can build her draw attacks, use her magic cover, and then, a couple turns later, use her LB, get up that 50% mitigation for your party, and she can take over that role for your party, where she's going to provide the 50% mitigation, even on bosses where you're using her as a magic attack tank. Now, there's going to be, a couple bosses out there that may or may not eventually exist, where it's going to be a boss that does predominantly magic damage, and they're going to use a physical attack first. And in those situations, you aren't going to want to use her limit burst in those parties, and with those parties in those scenarios, because it's going to activate that physical cover first, because the first attack that comes out, if it's AoE physical, it's going to activate that physical cover. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing for you. Very strong character. Hallowed, Aegis, Charlotte. We're definitely going for her. Hopefully we get super lucky. If we have to, we'll do like the whole 25k thing. Otherwise, it's cool. We got it. We're going to get in there. We're going to get that one ticket. It's going to be a good time. You got to always be there. It's always a good time when we pull. So Hallowed, Aide, Charlotte, Mystical Ice, Lasswell. Thank you guys so much for spending some of your time here today, cleaning up, getting informed on these units. Let me know down below if you're pulling for either of them. I know a lot of you guys out there are pulling for Hallowed, Aide, Charlotte. We've been waiting for her for a long time. Came out a little bit earlier, and I'm kind of happy about that, because I was ready. I was ready for Hallowed, Aide, Charlotte. So thank you guys so much for the support, especially our Patreon and YouTube channel members. And until then, guys, stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.